May 9th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with President Yoon Suk-yeol's upcoming briefing to the nation. In the coming hour, the South Korean leader will deliver a live message on the directions of policies he will pursue over the next 3 years. There will also be an hour-long Q&A session. U.S. President Joe Biden says his country will not supply bombs and artillery shells that Israel can use to conduct a full-scale offensive on Rafah. A comment that was made after confirming a delay in ammunition shipments to Israel. The Olympic flame for Paris 2024 has arrived in Marseille, signaling the start of a day of celebrations as the prologue to the Olympic torch relay. Tomorrow, May 10th, marks a full 2 years of the Yoon administration, and President Yoon Suk-yeol will be live briefing the nation on what the people should expect for the remaining 3 years. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
As President Yoon Suk-yeol prepares for his first live press conference in 21 months on Thursday, there are two questions he's most anticipated to face. One about the death of a young Marine, and one about First Lady Kim Gun-hee. The Democratic Party of Korea pushed through a special probe bill to investigate government interference in the probe of a Marine's death during last year's flood rescue operations. The top office suggested vetoing the bill, especially with the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials already on the case. As for the First Lady, the prosecution recently opened an investigation after she accepted a luxury bag in 2022 as a gift. President Yoon has recently vowed to address these issues himself and not his aides.
사법 리스크가 있다면은 제가 해야 될 문제이지 제 문제를 또 저에 대해서 뭐 제기된 게 있다면 제가 설명하고 풀어야지 민정수석이 할 일은 전 아니라고 생각합니다.
While these two issues may take all the headlines, with an hour set for the Q&A session, there will be many more.
Before the press conference, the president will first explain the government's policy direction and progress over the past 2 years through a video message from the office, and will also discuss the plans for national governance over the next 3 years.
In fact, the message Yoon will have on doctors as the collective action prolongs will be a key issue as well. In addition, he's likely to address 3 of his other reformation plans: the pension system, labor, and education, along with diplomatic issues and inflation. President Yoon Suk-yeol hasn't had any official engagements in the 3 days leading up to the press conference on Thursday, seemingly in full prep mode. An official said the president asked his aides to prepare to focus on the questions that the public would really be curious about. The press conference comes following the ruling PPP's crushing defeat in the general election in April, and as President Yoon vowed to enhance communication with the public. He's met reporters in person and briefly took questions on multiple occasions since then as well. In the meantime, the DP called for the president to use this opportunity to approve the 250,000 won, or around $180 cash handout that it's pushing for, and accept the Marine probe.
I have high expectations. I hope that effective measures for national governance reform will be put in place.
The ruling People Power Party's interim leader Hwang Woo-yeol said in an interview with a local radio station that this will be an opportunity for President Yoon to get closer to the public, and Yoon's honest answers would dispel any of the rumors that surround him. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
It's been almost 3 months since the trainee doctors began their mass walkout. And to cope with a possible shortage of new doctors next year, the government plans to allow foreign licensed doctors to provide medical services here in Korea. Our Choi Soo-hyung has the details.
The medical crisis is growing as the collective walkout by trainee doctors and leaves of absence taken by medical students has lasted for almost 3 months. The medical authorities are concerned that there will be a shortage of new doctors next year, as there won't be enough to meet the current annual quota of 3,058 doctors per year graduating from medical schools. Also, junior trainee doctors won't be able to take specialist exams the following year if they are absent for more than 3 months. The authorities said around May 20th as the deadline for these doctors to return to their hospitals. Within the emergency response system, doctors with foreign licenses will be able to provide medical services here with the approval from the Health Ministry. But this will be limited to when the healthcare alert level reaches serious as it is now due to the walkout. The Health Ministry gave official notice of a revision to the medical law on Wednesday, stating this was to address the shortage of doctors that is creating a healthcare gap. It added that the move was to protect the health and lives of people as the dispute over increasing the medical school enrollment quota continues to escalate. The ministry will accept opinions on the revision up until May 20th, while an exact implementation date has yet to be determined. Meanwhile, the academic board at Busan National University, 320 kilometers south of Seoul in Busan, decided not to revise its internal regulations on increasing its medical school quota. The board said that, as there was no social consensus regarding the increase, it would keep its number of new students at the current level. The Education Ministry expressed regret over this, as the majority of university medical schools had already completed changes to their regulations.
While other universities have either completed or are smoothly progressing with a revision of their regulations, the ministry regrets the situation at Busan National University. The Education Ministry urges the university to complete the regulatory revision process, following its demand for an increase in medical school enrollment.
The ministry warned that if the university fails to revise its regulations, it could face a suspension from medical school admissions in 2025. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Apple is finally jumping on the AI bandwagon with a brand new iPad Pro with a new chip for artificial intelligence. Now, will its ambitious latest model allow the tech giant to catch up in the global AI race? We're joined by Professor Yang Hee-dong this morning. Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Apple is definitely not considered a front-runner in the AI race compared to other global competitors that have actively showcased their own AI models. Why such a late entry to the AI competition?
Well, we can think about the 5 major reasons for the very belated effort of the Apple regarding the AI. The first one is Apple, in terms of their sales breakdown, Apple is just a hardware company. As of last year, 70% of their revenue came from the sales of the hardware devices, such as iPhone, Mac computer, and a tablet. I mean, among them, 60% of the sales came from iPhone, the single item, and 20% came from services. So that means Apple may not feel any need to diversify their revenue sources into other areas, such as the AI. Mm-hmm. And second reason is they invest a lot for autonomous vehicle, even though they end up with the giving up on that project. That made a very critical impact for their R&D effort for the past 5 or 6 years. Number 3, their ecosystem is very, very exclusive. That means they may be let of very diversified data set that may train their AI engines. And number 4, EU has declared the DMA, Digital Markets Act, that targets at platform companies under the name of gatekeepers to reduce their monopolistic power in the EU markets. And they picked up Apple, and they charged about over, about $2 billion for their monopolistic abuse of power of the App Store, particularly for the music streaming services. And number 5, their market share in China has been declined, particularly within this year. At the moment, their ranking of iPhone in Chinese market is ranked number 4, after Vivo, Huawei, and Honor. So for all these reasons, they needed to accelerate their effort only for the iPhone and also hardware, because those hardware devices have taken up over 70% of the overall market, the revenue sources.
So it did have its good reasons on the late entry. Now, Professor Yang, let's talk about the new iPad Pro. It's revamped with this N4 chip wasn't the last chip M2 though.
Well, the M2 was released about a couple years ago, but now M4 is made of a 3-nanometer process. And their speed is very fascinating because the M4 chip can operate the one instruction of the computer chips over 38 trillion times per second. And this speed is about 1.5 times faster than the early version of M2. And even this chip is even faster than the M3 that they released last October for the notebook computer MacBook. And this is not all the story about M4, because M4 is major infrastructure where all the advanced AI services and application programs can run. For example, then in the last the May 7th, the event of Get Loose, they also announced about the Apple Pencil Pro that you can use like a pencil, right, to write on the screen of the iPad. And also they released a new service called Logic Pro that may help edit the songs for the musicians. They also released another service called Final Cut Pro for the movie makers. And also they announced that they will make a new LLM service running on all this iPad and on iPhone devices. They will release a new iPhone 16 later this year on top of the platform iOS 18. And there's a very strong suspicion that this iOS 18 will run on top of the AI chips. So even though the Apple has been very lazy on the AI effort for the past couple of years, but now they are speeding up the effort with a huge investment on AI because they believe that this is the future direction for the future progress.
Well, Professor Yang, what's interesting is that the launch of the new model did little to move Apple stock on Wednesday. And the question is, will the upgraded iPad Pro be a hit and take over the global tablet market? What do you think?
Well, many professionals have very positive expectations for the sales of iPad because for the past 5 quarters and the sales of iPad have been declined. But due to this very, streamlined and very strong equipment of the AI facilities, and many people believe that the functions and capabilities of iPad will improve significantly. Well, when it comes to the stock prices, I mean, many people suspect the impact of iPro because immediately after the announcement, the stock prices increased very marginally. But stock price is a reflection of the future expectations. So for the past 3 weeks, the stock price of Apple has increased by 10%, even though the current price stays at the level of the early this year. But when it comes to the stock price movement for the past 3 weeks, I mean, this movement is not that bad. Of course, we are aware of a very negative aspect for the future stock prices because the problems lie in China and AI, as I already mentioned. But there are lots of very positive aspects for their future price increase. The first one is, they gave up their very too much investment on autonomous vehicles and switch all those efforts onto AI. And lots of Apple users are still stuck to the old models. And all the models will be replaced with the new model released to be this late year with the iPhone 16 and the Magnificent 7, which are very big tech companies in the United States, such as NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, etc. All of them invest a lot on AI, and Apple will follow suit with the stock price of those Magnificent companies.
All right, Professor Yang, thank you so much for your analysis this morning. We appreciate it, and you have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
U.S. President Joe Biden made it clear on Wednesday that no offensive U.S. weapons will be provided to Israel, which he acknowledged could be used against civilians in Gaza. Our Shin Se-byuk has the details.
U.S. President Joe Biden said the U.S. would not supply weapons to Israel, which it could use to attack Rafah. In an interview on Wednesday, Biden said that while Washington is still committed to Israel's defense, his administration was not going to supply weapons and artillery shells that would be used in Rafah. The move is a clear statement against Israel's recent ground operation in the southernmost city in the Gaza Strip. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, speaking before the Senate Appropriations Committee the same day, confirmed the temporary halt of the weapons shipments.
As we have assessed the situation, we paused one shipment of high payload munitions.
He stressed that Israel should not launch major attacks in Rafah without ensuring the protection and safety of civilians in the conflict zone. Secretary Austin also noted that a final decision on whether to proceed with the shipments has not yet been made. The weapons were reported to include 1,800 2,000-pound bombs and 1,700 500-pound bombs. This confirmation by a senior U.S. government official follows several reports of the temporary suspension amid disagreements over Israel's actions in Rafah and marks its first public acknowledgement of the decision. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller, in a briefing on Wednesday, also acknowledged the suspension in response to Washington's concerns of a major operation in Rafah by the Israeli military.
And we also have concerns about the impact of any potential operation on the delivery of humanitarian assistance. So we have paused one shipment of near-term assistance, and we are reviewing others.
The Biden administration's decision has reportedly prompted Israel to warn that it could endanger talks on hostage deals. According to U.S. media outlet Axios on Wednesday, senior Israeli officials have expressed deep frustration and dissatisfaction with the White House decision to delay the weapons shipments. Reports also suggest that Israel is outraged not only by the halt of the shipments, but also by the leak of disinformation to the press. Israel has also cautioned the U.S. that this decision might jeopardize efforts to negotiate a ceasefire and secure the release of the hostages. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Russia on Wednesday conducted large-scale strikes in Ukraine just a day before its Victory Day. Meanwhile, EU envoys have agreed to use windfall profits from Russian central bank assets frozen in the bloc for Ukraine's defense. Lee Seung-jae has more.
A day before Russia's Victory Day, celebrating the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in 1945, its military conducted its largest attack in weeks against Ukraine. The Russian military carried out massive attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure on Wednesday, using 55 missiles and 21 drones launched from either Russia or Russian-controlled areas. The attacks targeted power generation and transmission facilities in 6 regions of Ukraine. The overnight attacks resulted in at least 3 civilian casualties as Russia's military continues its recent attempts to paralyze Ukraine's energy system. Meanwhile, ambassadors of EU member nations on Wednesday agreed to use windfall profits from Russian central bank assets frozen in the bloc to further aid Ukraine's defense. According to Reuters, citing EU diplomatic sources, the bloc will use some $300 billion of Russian financial assets that the G7 countries froze in 2022 over Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Upon approval of its legal text, 90% of the proceeds will go into an EU-run fund for military aid for Ukraine, while the other 10% will support the war-torn country in other ways. The decision comes despite Russian officials last month threatening the West with a severe response and endless legal challenges if the frozen assets are touched. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
A recent survey found that Seoul citizens consider the Han River to be the representative landmark of the capital, while foreign residents voted for Gwanghwamun Square. The results of the 2023 Seoul survey were released on Thursday after questioning over 35,000 people in 20,000 households. Among Korean respondents, 48.3% chose the Han River as the capital's representative landmark. A separate survey of 2,500 foreign residents of Seoul showed that 45.9% chose Gwanghwamun Square. Now, when asked about the benefits of living in the capital, both surveys had convenient public transportation as the top reason.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn off to stories from around the world. We begin today in France, where the Olympic flame arrived on French soil on Wednesday, 79 days before the Paris 2024 Olympic Games opening ceremony. The Olympic flame safely reached the French port city of Marseille after a 12-day journey from Greece on board the Belém, a 128-year-old three-masted ship. French swimmer Florent Manadou, who won gold in the 2012 Olympic men's 50 meters freestyle, was given the honor of being the first torchbearer on French soil. Manadou then handed over the torch to Paralympic athlete Nantenon Keita, a 400 meters gold medalist at the 2016 Rio Games. Marseille-born rapper Jules then lit the cauldron in front of around 150,000 people, signaling the start of the Olympic torch relay celebrations, which will continue until the start of Paris Olympic Games on the 26th of July. A Boeing 767 cargo airplane landed at Istanbul airport on Wednesday without its front landing gear, dragging its nose on the tarmac. The Turkish Transport Ministry said authorities have launched an investigation while no casualties were reported. The FedEx Airlines cargo plane was doused with firefighting foam as it came to a halt on the runway after sparks and smoke were seen from the nose of the plane, dragging on the tarmac. The plane flew in from Paris and reportedly informed Istanbul Airport's control tower that its front landing gear had failed to open. The Turkish Transport Ministry said in a statement that the cargo aircraft landed with guidance from the control tower. FedEx said that it would provide additional information as it is available. The aircraft in the incident was less than 10 years old. Moving over to South Africa, rescue teams in the coastal city of George continued their search on Wednesday for some 40 construction workers missing after an apartment building under construction collapsed on Monday. According to the George municipality, of the 75 construction workers on site, 7 have been confirmed dead, while 16 of the 29 rescued from under the collapsed debris are in critical condition. 39 workers remained unaccounted for as of Wednesday morning, buried in the rubble of the 5-story building. More than 200 rescue personnel from disaster response teams from nearby cities and towns have been brought in to help the rescue efforts. Authorities have announced an investigation into the collapse. The Garrick Club, London's historic private members' club, voted to allow women to join for the first time since it was founded in 1831. Members of the all-male gentlemen's club reportedly voted on Tuesday on whether to allow women to join, and almost 60% of those present were in favor of doing so. The Garrick has caught the public's attention as its members are all prominent figures in society, including King Charles III, senior politicians, judges, journalists and actors. Previously, in 2015, a vote was held to consider the acceptance of female members, but it was rejected at the time. Women were only allowed to enter the club as guests and were denied full membership.
Good morning. While temperature swings continue today in most places, southern parts of the country are starting off the day in the single digits, and highs will rise rapidly to the 20s, going up 1 to 9 degrees higher than yesterday. And those in Gyeongju should notice gaps of nearly 20 degrees Celsius today. Sunny skies are expected nationwide with stronger UV rays for southern regions than Jeju Island. Have your sunglasses and a hat ready to protect yourself from the strong UV rays. The capital area will be as mild as yesterday at 21 degrees. Again, a big rise in highs for southern regions, topping out at 23 degrees in Gwangju this afternoon. Air quality will be decent nationwide. However, pollen allergy sufferers along the west coast may be in for a rough day, so be well prepared. Pleasant late spring weather is expected for Friday. That nationwide rain is in the forecast for this weekend. Then sunny and warm weather is in store for next week as roses start to bloom. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Friday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. 24시간 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generations.
Bringing news just for you. It's May 9th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, your new host for News Generation. Joining me in the studio today is Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you, and Woo Hee-jun.
Happy to be here.
Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to begin with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. Adore CEO Min Hee-jin on Tuesday filed an injunction against Adore's parent company HYBE to halt its exercising of voting rights at an upcoming extraordinary shareholders meeting, which is set to discuss her dismissal from the company. This comes after HYBE filed a criminal complaint against Min for breach of trust and asked the Seoul court to give permission to convene an extraordinary shareholders meeting, bypassing the board. Adore is scheduled to hold its own board meeting on Friday, although the specific agenda has not yet been disclosed. Now, moving on, staying with culture, after more than 30 years in the film industry, Cannes-winning actor Song Kang-ho is making his TV series debut. Disney Plus's Uncle Samsik, starring the veteran actor, is premiering next Thursday. During Wednesday's press conference, Song said he wants to explore various ways to connect with his fans. The 16-episode series is set in Korea during the 1960s, a period of reconstruction following the Korean War. Finally, yesterday was Parents' Day here in Korea, a day where we honor and express our gratitude and love to our parents. Now, according to a survey conducted by one domestic card company, 92% of respondents prepared cash gifts for their parents, with carnation flowers being the second most popular choice. So I want to ask you guys, yesterday was Parents' Day, so how did you spend or celebrate Parents' Day with your family?
Well, personally, I gave gifts and a bunch of flowers to my parents yesterday, because to be honest with you, I never really taken care of this anniversary, which is Parents' Day, to my parents. But as I get older, I feel more grateful for their gratitudes and the dedication and efforts on me. And in fact, for me, who is quite personally timid to express my feelings to my parents, this anniversary, and this is actually for me, it's like seems like opportunity to feel my feelings on my parents.
So I think that you had a lovely day with your parents.
I did.
And Walter, I know that you're a parent yourself, so how was Parents' Day for you?
Unfortunately, there wasn't much celebration at the Lee Cho household yesterday, only because it was not a public holiday.
Oh, right.
And my daughter, she's only 16 months old, so she wasn't able to get me anything, which I found extremely rude, but she did make some little paper art for us to have.
That's adorable.
Yes, exactly. It was really cute. I would much rather money, but I guess that that's what I have to do for now. But yes, she was able to give us a little gift in the form of her face on a nice little flower. Very cute and adorable, but next time, Daddy wants money.
Indeed. So I hope that everybody who's watching had a lovely Parents' Day as well. And that was our news feed for this Thursday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion topic of the day. These days, terms like inflation and skyrocketing prices have almost become everyday buzzwords here in the news. So in Korea, there's even this saying, the price of everything is going up except your income. So as costs just keep climbing, millennials and Gen Zs are adapting their spending habits in some very interesting ways. So let's take a look at the screen to find out more. While millennials and Gen Zs have often been associated with flex culture, which refers to the flaunting of wealth through flashy spending, as the fight against inflation drags on, we're witnessing a shift in their spending habits. They're now tightening their belts to spend as little and save as much as possible. But it doesn't stop there. Going beyond saving money, many are actively seeking out ways to bolster their income through investment. How is our generation navigating these soaring prices and making ends meet? So as just seen in the VCR, as living costs keep going up, it seems like millennials and Gen Zs are looking to live more frugally than in the past. Now, one big sign of this change is that we're not ordering in as much. So it's kind of surprising considering how our generation used to be really reliant and being the main active users of these platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Especially during COVID-19, during the pandemic, obviously, that's when the delivery prices, or delivery style of eating boomed, and it was quite a great time for restaurants around. Well, not a great time for restaurants, but for the delivery apps as well. But as prices rise, dining out and delivery consumption have become burdensome, it seems. So ordering delivery just once can actually cost way too much for some people.
Like 20,000 won.
Exactly, and that's not even including the delivery fee. So it's said that among the main users of delivery apps, MZers are increasingly opting instead to get home-cooked meals instead of eating out. So if we take a look at the screen, I can actually show you what we mean about scale of dining out expenses. Now, the scale of dining out expenses has decreased about 23% compared to last year. So from 600 million to 400 million. That's a massive decrease if you think about it. And a lot of people, like I said, are now using, I guess, those ready-made meals that you find in supermarkets, or now there's even stores that make ready-made meals for you.
Right, so the graph and the data that you showed actually shows a very steep decline in people who use delivery services. Now, as Walter mentioned before, more people, more millennials and Gen Zs are actually shifting towards home-cooked meals. So do you agree on this, Yoon?
I did. As price continues to rise for a long time now, demands for eating out in the restaurant and delivery food is decreasing. And sales of supermarkets that sells the ingredient in a large quantity is on the rise as well. And this is because buying in the bulk is a little more cheaper than buying in the small quantities. And simple food and meal kits, which is in a immediate stage of cooking, is also doing well as one of the main products. And frozen fruits and meats, and which can be stored for a long time, is also the one of the item with increased sales. And I'm also the one of a person who enjoy the happiness of the delivering food.
Me too.
But I'm also the one of a person who have recently joined this trend due to the restrictions on the increasing delivery fee and also the minimum order amounts.
Well, I'm kind of feeling guilty or bad because I am not cutting back on delivery food, although I am also feeling that burden because everything is getting pricier. But beyond merely cutting back on expenses, for example, using less delivery services, it appears that our generation is increasingly turning to savings and investments to kind of secure more financial stability. So could you tell us more about that?
Well, it seems that many people are definitely more interested in saving than spending. For example, more and more people are tightening their belt and spending wisely, and also cutting back on the spending and also expanding their saving as well. And such as aiming to saving 100 million won in 5 years.
That's a lot.
Well, yes, and or signing up for as many instruments. And unlikely in the past, when the image of the penny pincher was uncomfortable at the moment, but young people are also realizing the virtue of the saving these days.
Right, definitely. Saving has become very important these days. So I want to ask you, Walter, is this trend something that we're observing here in Korea, or is this like universal as well?
Well, recently with international gold prices reaching historic heights, the ease of gold investment through ETF, has been influenced. Now, the enthusiasm for gold investments among MZs is not just here limited to South Korea. Also, Chinese MZs are trending in the showcasing small gold nuggets resembling beans on social media platforms. Now, it also is reported that in the United States, stores like Costco sell gold bars at prices lower than market rates. So it's interesting to see that a long time ago where gold was seen as the most expensive thing and then it had a sort of dip, it's coming back into fashion, which is great to see.
Yeah, gold is making a comeback and we're seeing all these various methods of saving and investment among our generation. So we also asked our viewers how they're spending and saving money amid this era of high inflation, and here's what 3 of them had to say. So if you look at the comments, Sayan says, I've adjusted my spending. I eat out less and have been cooking more at home. I follow cooking recipes which use the leftovers to make other meals. Tasmia says, I just eat 2 meals each day and I've decreased my food intake by 71%. I use water and electricity only when I really need it, and I can use my AC at 26 Celsius degrees for 2 hours. Finally, Stella says, I limit the amount of times I go out to eat to around 1 or 2 times a week and cook the rest of my meals, even my work lunches. I don't look at social media or browse shopping sites or go window shopping, which helps me curb my impulse spending. So our viewers gave a lot of good advice and tips on how they're spending money or saving money. So now we're going to expand on this and find out more on how young people around the world are dealing with inflation. We're going to talk to a Gen Zer living in the States. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. Right, so today we're joined by Hannah Kim, a Gen Zer living in the United States. Welcome, Hannah, to the show.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Hannah. Thank you for your time today. So our first question for you is, have you noticed any changes in your own spending habits or those of your friends recently?
Yeah, definitely would say that we are trying to reduce our spending as much as possible, just because we are definitely eating in more, cooking our meals, limiting the amount of Ubers or Lyfts that we take in place of whether that's like public transit or walking places instead, trying to limit our online shopping addictions as well. So definitely have noticed a big change in our spending habits.
A lot you're doing.
Yeah, so I've also noticed a big change in my spending habits, and I then quickly go back to them and spend as much money as I can for some reason. I'm a very big impulse buyer. Probably you can relate to that being a Gen Zer as well. So what are some of the reasons that that influenced you to adjust your spending patterns? Was it that you were thinking about the future? Were you worried about retirement, like a person like me would be worrying about? Or was it the fact that you were just living off, your salary week by week? What are some of the things that influenced you?
I definitely think in general it is us living on our salary. On top of that, as we've noticed the rising cost of living, for example, like a cup of coffee is almost $10 for us these days. We've definitely noticed that it's been taking more of our salary than we're used to. So I think it's more out of spending or restricting our spending out of fear than it is like preventative. So like savings, retirement, or anything like that. It's definitely more so, I'm definitely noticing more of my money go away, even though I'm not buying as much. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing your thoughts. And I also wonder, one of your Gen Zer, can you offer any tips or advice on how to save the money efficiently and based on your own experiences?
Yeah, definitely get a budgeting app because that will help a lot. We do try to follow, or at least I try to follow the 50-30-20 rule. And so like 50% goes to your needs, 30% goes to wants, and then 20% goes to savings. I try to put the 20% of my salary towards my savings immediately, so that way I can't touch it. And then the rest of that 80% is kind of wiggle room, even though I know 50% should really be going towards the immediate needs.
Anything else or advice or hacks that you would like to share, Hannah, before we say goodbye to you?
Just continue with the meal prepping, stay away from the online shopping sites, and walk where you can instead of taking taxis. So yeah, we're all in the same boat.
All right, some very good, useful advices. Thank you, Hannah, so much for your time and advice today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Right, so a lot of good advice, useful advice from Hannah. I think I remember 50, 30, 20 rule, meal prepping, and not doing online shopping were some of the advice that she gave us.
It's so hard these days, isn't it, with like us being the thumb generation. Everything is easily accessible.
Right.
You can buy basically everything when it comes to groceries or clothes or you name it. It's all at the touch of a button.
Right.
And I've found myself so many times not needing something, but seeing something. I know this is the whole point of, you know, the strategy of selling or the marketers. Yes, exactly. That they put things up on your feed that you don't necessarily need.
But kind of makes you want to buy.
But it kind of makes you want to buy, and those are very tempting times, and it makes it very hard to save. But just like Hannah, I also have thought about, you know, I'm not living check by check, week by week, but I have been worrying that since we're not as freelancers, we don't really get a pay raise at all for me. So we have to sort of bargain our salary. So it comes down to how much money I can get from my employers. But it is very, very difficult when we're seeing inflation go up and none of our money seems to be going up at the same time. So it's a little bit of a crazy time for freelancers.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a hard time for everyone, but we heard some great advices from our viewers and also from Hannah too. And now before we wrap up, I want to ask you guys, are there any like personal advice or tips that you would like to share to like spend less and save more, or wisely spending money?
Well, reducing fixed expenses is the most important factor in the saving, I think. And MGs are working through their own methods, such as using the affordable cell phones and transportation saving card, etc. And in addition, I think it is important to set a accurate goal in order to continue to succeed in saving. But also you have to consider your own life pattern before you go on a saving, because your daily habit and life pattern also affects your saving, and also have appropriate saving routines. And I also think that too, saving money is also you can have a more healthy life routines, because you know, whether you're taking a taxi, you're rather just walking on the road, and also rather like you having the delivery food, you also wrapping your own lunch boxes. And also it's going to be affected to your more healthy life routine and pattern, I think.
Right, so it's like catching two birds with one stone, because you can save money and you can also have a more healthier lifestyle. So definitely prepping your food at home will be a good advice. What about you, Walter?
For me, I guess I have to be honest, I love coffee and I drink it on a daily basis.
How many cups do you drink?
Let's not talk about that because it is a little bit too much, and almost to the point where I know that if I reduce the amount of coffee that I have, that I'll save a lot of money. Thankfully, I've also invested in a fair few tumblers in my life, and I try to use them. Let's not look about I bought a coffee today and I did not bring my tumbler. I'm sorry about that. Though it's only a small amount of coffee, money that you spend when you use a tumbler, like it's only a couple of cents off. In this case, every cent counts that you are saving, or every Korean won here counts. But really, buying coffee is a waste of money. I know that. So that is one of the things that I am trying to reduce, but it's become such a bad habit. Another thing that I have done to save money is, of course, as you mentioned, meal prepping. Something that I do usually every Sunday is make sure I make meals ready for the week. For the week. Or as Heejun mentioned as well, buying in bulk is so much more convenient because you can make a lot of meals at one time. And as a person who, you know, is out of the house a lot, I really don't have that time to go home and cook. And by the time I get home anyway, I have to look after my daughter. You know, here's a good way of saving money that I've been doing. If you're a parent, eat your baby food.
What?
Eat your daughter's leftover baby food because she ain't gonna eat it all.
As long as it tastes good, okay.
That's what I've been doing. So, that's a very sad story, but that's the reality of the situation is like I've also just been eating leftovers or eating what I can to save a lot of money, because as we know, especially with fruit these days, I love fruit. Fruit has been going up in price.
Yeah, it's really expensive
It's
these
like
days.
$4 for an apple. I
Yeah.
mean, that's ridiculous. And in Korea, if you don't know, they sell them like 1 or 2 usually, like in a plastic thing or like a plastic container, not like in a big bag sometimes. And usually if it is in a big bag, it's over $10 to $13. It's getting ridiculous to eat fruit these days, but I also go to the canned fruit, which is something that I can go
An
for a long
affordable
time.
option.
Affordable option, as well as extremely unhealthy because it's full of sugar.
Right.
How about you, Jinga? Do you have any things that you do that?
Well, for me, as I mentioned before, I know that the delivery fee and food itself has become more expensive than the past. But as I mentioned before, I still can't restrain myself from ordering. People in my office will know I order at least once every day. So my goal is to like start from a very baby step. So ordering only one time a day or maybe one time in 2 days. So I think that I'll start with that. So
Yes.
if I cut back on my delivery service usage, I think that I'll be able to save a great amount of money. So yeah, hope that this can
I'll
work out.
support you. We'll bring like
Please
some.
keep an eye on me. I can also spend less and save more. Right, so these were all the useful advices that we have for you in order for you to spend wisely. Again, spend less and save more. Thank you so much for tuning in to our episode today. But NewsGen is here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks today to Walter Lee
Always lovely to be here.
and Lee-jun.
Happy to be here.
And this was Hong Yujin. Thank you everyone so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?